Welcome back, everybody, to Fly The Coop. We're so happy to have you with us today. I am honored to have Greg Mason with me today. Greg is the acting president and CEO of Home Services and has a long run with the company, to include heading up our legal counsel dating all the way back to 1987. Welcome, Greg. I'm so excited to have you with me today.
Thanks, Cari Ann. It's great to be here.
Yeah.
You've got a great home and
Thank you.
an enjoyable morning so far.
Yeah,
having an egg bake and seeing the property and watching
you.
the birds out there
my
and the feeder.
gosh.
So if I start straying away, it's because I'm looking at the Cardinals and Blue Jays out there.
It's just so fun to have an opportunity in a casual space to sit down and pick your brain today. We've had the opportunity to have some really dynamic interviews, and I am excited about this one because I think it's going to be one of our best. I'm excited to have you bend our ear a little bit about what's going on in terms of your take on the market, not only locally but globally. And there's so much more to share in terms of what's happening right now moving into 2023.
All right. Well, I'm looking forward to it. And it's been an interesting market this year. We can talk about that a little bit here if you want to. So,
Absolutely.
I mean, I think this market is, the last couple of years through COVID, we saw an acceleration of, transactions, which were really not realistic. And hard for everybody to keep up that pace. And from that standpoint, we saw such an acceleration of average sales prices, probably a little over the top here and throughout the country. I would say in the Midwest, we're still kind of on the lower end. I think the conservative Midwest aspect, when we look at what happened to average sales prices in the West Coast, East Coast, they really jumped a lot more than the Midwest, which is good for our market.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we're still one of the most affordable markets around the country.
Absolutely.
With that. So,
on that note, don't you really think it's become, we've become an interesting magnet for the East and West Coast relocation perspective, as there's so much life movement happening now post-COVID. We're dealing with a real interesting affordability factor, even though, yes, we've seen some extraordinary appreciation over the past, even 5 years. We are a very affordable market and attractive as a quality lifestyle city and state.
Absolutely. And I think, when people get here, and we see it all the time over the years, when people move here, they don't leave from the Twin Cities. And I think with COVID, I think people love the lifestyle here.
Yeah, I agree.
I think they really, enjoy especially if you're in the outdoors. And what we've seen as a company the last couple of years, our sales really throughout the whole, not just in the metro per se, but throughout our whole market area, Minnesota and Western Wisconsin, a lot of transactions, people moving because of COVID and the ability to work different places. That has really shifted a lot of things that way too. And I think it's one of the things as a company we've got offices throughout the state in Western Wisconsin that we're really able to capitalize on that.
So, Greg, how many offices do we have now?
We've got 65 offices in Minnesota and Wisconsin.
Amazing.
And we also acquired this last year a company down in Sioux Falls. Called Hague Realtors.
Right. Yes, I saw that.
Yep, market leader in Sioux Falls. And
Amazing.
A great company that joined us. They've actually been in business as long as Edina Realty.
Wow.
And we're happy to have them part of the family.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And how many agents do we have at the company now?
We've got, including that group, we've got about 2,500 agents.
I know. Isn't that amazing?
It is.
It's a perfect segue to talk about what's going on. Let's talk about brokerages and growth. In this business, in our city and all over the country, the additional agents that have been added to our ecosystem, which has been, significant, and what we forecast will happen moving into 2023 as the market has stabilized. And then more importantly, the power in the roots in the foundation of a company like Edina Realty in comparison to so many new micro brokers popping up. Give me your take on that.
Yeah, I think, the last couple of years, I think when COVID hit, we saw a lot of people maybe in their, normal 8 to 5 job look to move into the real estate industry. Some of those people will be successful, but it's a business, as you know. It takes a lot of dedication and really a lot of hard work and experience. And I think we will see this year kind of some transition. I think we'll see some people leave the business. I think we'll be flat within the number of agents, if not a little bit down, truthfully, from the number, because of the number of transactions. And I think this actually then goes to your second part, which is really, being with a company like Edina Realty, the professional company with all the true professionals, all the departments, all the people who've got the experience. If you look at the tenure of our agents within our company, almost half or more than half our agents have been with the company for more than 10 years. So this is really a market as now we're not in the crazy multiple offers that we were seeing.
I'm so glad
that we're seeing. You need professional marketing skills. And this is our market. So we really see us growing. We're actually seeing this year a number of agents starting to come back to the company, who've been at other brokers too, because when it was fast paced, they didn't feel they needed all the tools and services, and we really are positioned really well going forward.
We are truly, as a company, a full concierge company, and the dynamic and very, complex divisions of our organization. When you look at our legal team, you look at our IT division, our marketing segment, there's so much about this. I mean, look at the number of years Edina Realty's been a part of such a huge market share, which we'll talk about a little bit. Where are we at now as a company with the market share in the Twin Cities and in the state?
Yeah, a couple things with that. First, we've been the market leader, the number one in market share for 22 years. We've looked at the numbers. We know we'll be the market leader next year for 23 years. And, it's one of the things I talk about all the time. When you're on the top, you're kind of sitting on the, number one, everybody wants to knock you off. And we've got we've got a significant gap, still. We're leading the market by several, market points, 3. We actually, within Minnesota, Western Wisconsin, whole market area, year to date, we're selling more than 3,000 homes than any other company out there.
Right. So I think it's interesting because everybody's ranking themselves out there, right? We were just talking about this. And everyone's number one this and number one that. And I think the important thing for everybody to know out there is the data is only as good as what you feed it.
That's for true.
And there's 2 pieces to how we operate as an organization that it's always ran very near and dear to my heart. I've been approached a myriad, hundreds and hundreds of times over the 23 years I've been with the company on recruitment and why I stay. And I feel like the roots, the foundation, the intelligence, the knowledge base, it's an elegant and classic version of what I feel is what true real estate's about. You know what I mean?
Yep, absolutely. And, let me a couple thoughts and comments on that. One, having been with the company for 36 plus years now, and I was with the company when I started right out of law school and never been anywhere else. So it's, really, it's where where my roots are. But I worked for the family, the Rovick family, whose mom, Emma, founded the company as a woman in 1955, which is an amazing story by itself.
Yeah.
But her values that we always talk about, that she carries forward of honesty, integrity, and commitment, we've always stayed rooted in that family, those integrity, those values. I'm sorry, those values really what I meant to say from that standpoint. But we've been part of Berkshire Hathaway for over 20 years. So on the other end of the spectrum, we've got a great founder and a great foundation there. But we also have with Berkshire Hathaway and with Warren Buffett, the greatest, from an ethics and integrity perspective in the industry, there's nobody, stronger than he is about always doing the right thing. And I think it's one of the things that's our mantra too. Anytime you have a transaction with anybody from Edina Realty, they're going to do the right thing.
Absolutely. I completely agree with that. And the support and the fabric of the wealth of knowledge and the fabric of the different personalities and the expertise that comes from these years and years, 1955, right? We've got people with this organization that have been with us for well over 50 years.
Yep.
We've got people in the organization. When you look at the national average right now, they say 75% of the agents out there have been licensed for less than 5 years. So when you compare that statistic with what we have going with this organization, the necessity in such a complex world when it comes to buying and selling real estate, whatever that might be, residential, commercial, whatever you're dealing with, having that knowledge base is so, so important. And knowing that you have the ability to navigate the complexity necessary for these clients that we work with every single day. I just really think that message is important during a time when there's so much glitter, there's so much distraction, and there's so many new entries into the market. So many.
Couple, I can go two different ways on that, I think, but I think one of the things I want to just mention first is within Edina Realty is it's a whole network of agents. Everybody works together and shares and networks and helps each other. You can bounce anything off another agent in your office. In another office, you got something, maybe a new listing coming on. You've got a whole 2,500 agents.
2,500 agents
to work with and tap their resources and knowledge from in the market area. And I think that's really key.
Important.
And I hear it all the time when agents, with the company, they know they can go into their office and they know that, hey, someone else is there. They can, whether it be the manager, but also anybody else in the office, they can bounce things off of it. And that's how you learn. And that's how you get better from an expertise perspective. And I think
absolutely
the other thing is you're face to face. And I think we've lost, the industry and maybe society has lost that a little bit.
I agree.
From the standpoint of, getting people face to face and sitting down and talking, not just texting back and forth and not just communicating via email. That's really the important thing.
It's critical in communication. I share with the team, most of my team, I'd say 75% of my team is 30 years or younger. And really having that conversation behind the power of actually having a conversation, face to face, eye to eye, even if it's on a Zoom. There's so much loss in the translation when we're reliant on what's become such a socially driven business.
Right.
And the texting, emailing, I guess we can throw that in there, you're losing the tone, you're losing the context, you're losing the messaging, and it is something that's very much driving the business right now in not a good way, in my opinion.
I would totally agree with that. And I really encourage every time in a transaction, people to get together, at least go shake hands, or at a closing, let the parties, see each other. It should be a celebration too at the closing or within the transaction. It's a big emotional, every real estate transaction is emotional. And it's an experience that people should have more of that. And
I agree.
I really encourage people to get out and do that.
I feel like the business over the last couple of years coming out of COVID and then dealing with what I consider, and we're going to talk about this next, what was not a real market.
Correct.
That wasn't normal by any stretch of the imagination. And it took a piece of the reality and the grassroots component of our work that we do away. And I feel like it's creeping back again.
I think it's coming back, not just creeping, but I think it's coming back even faster.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to take a little while for, the market to adjust that way. But I think, sellers and buyers are, this is going to be a better market. To your point, I've never seen a market the last 2 years.
Yeah, never.
With when you start talking about 50, 60.
That's 37 years, folks.
Yeah, never saw it. I thought,
No.
okay, a multiple offer might used to be maybe two offers, maybe a third offer, but in a really good property.
Right.
But that was it. Not what this market was. And so, unfortunately, I think for consumers and buyers, this is a better market for them.
Absolutely.
It's not, they have time to make a decision. They have time to get an inspection. They have time to do those things.
Well, and even when you look at the rate of appreciation over the last even 3 years, not sustainable.
No, not
at all. Not healthy, not sustainable. So when you look at we're going to jump for a moment. When you look at what's happened over the last 2 years in terms of production in the city and how we rank, not only as an organization, but as a community, as a city, what are your analytics looking like right now?
What we're seeing, we saw competitors come in the last couple of years, which chipped away at some of our, our business and market share because there are people who are just order takers.
Yeah.
And actually what we're seeing now this year, the analytics starting to show and the metrics starting to shift back the other way with us. And that's a really good thing. We're seeing our listing inventory grow faster than other companies because in this market, sellers know they need the professionals. And this is... I'm excited about this moving forward.
Me too. When you look at even just last year, there were 4,000 entries into the marketplace, 4,000 new agents that came in.
Yep.
That's a lot of agents.
Yep.
And on average, a new agent coming in is transacting, in your opinion, how many units in a year?
5.
Yeah.
Maybe
so
6.
When you do the math on that, that's a lot of units.
Yep.
that are just fragmenting, taking away from what somebody that's maybe got the breadth and depth and knowledge pool to really elevate the experience and make sure the outcome for the client is exceptional. What do you think the fallout will be coming into 2023?
We're starting to see that already. We're starting to, especially you see it when license renewal. You see it when times and dues are up at the associations. And we're starting to see people, that exiting from the industry that way. And you always see, you can script it out. We could script it out a couple of years ago that people jump to their own company, come in as a new entrant. They've got the new shiny object, as you mentioned earlier. They're the new great thing on it, and they've figured it out more than all the companies have been doing this for a long time. And I think that the difference is, a company like ours, we've been business operators for a long time. We understand how to run a business, and from start to finish, and every little thing. And too many times people think it's an easy business to get into, and as you know, it's not.
No, it's not. I think that in terms of brokerages entering the market, if you were to go back 20 years and then look at what's happened now, like look at the differential and what would you define that as? Good, bad, positive, negative, and what do you see happening over the next 1 to 5 years?
Couple of different things. I think one of the things that's a negative is when you get new entrants, or you get companies that really they don't even have a broker in the market. You can't find a broker. You don't even have the ability in a transaction to even talk to somebody sometimes outside that agent. Or if you have an issue, you want to go to the broker or the manager. Some of these companies don't even have that. They don't have that professional level.
Right.
Working on,
I agree.
We joke, we call it working on, they're president of their basement, real estate companies. So, and that's hard. And that, I don't think that's delivering for the consumer. That's not delivering the service that our industry should give to them.
I agree with you on that.
Yeah.
So when you looked at the numbers coming into fourth quarter this year, how do you see next year differing from 2022?
I think I'm going to touch on a little bit on the economy and a little bit of the market, because obviously they're very much tied together.
Oh, absolutely.
We saw this year, as we know, the second half of this year when the Fed started raising rates and mortgage rates started increasing, we obviously saw the slowdown, which was in some ways okay, because that was kind of putting the brakes on the overheated market.
Correct.
So it kind of has hit that pause here, a little slowdown, readjusting the market right now.
Right.
I think the interesting thing, and I've said this a number of times recently, I keep watching what the Fed says every single day recently. I haven't paid attention to inflation data and CPI data much for a long time, but every single day I'm trying to see what's going on with, because inflation and the economy is overheated. So it feels like we peaked. Mortgage rates are starting to move down. The Fed's sending signals here recently that, they're going to start having lower, increases in their Fed rates, Fed fund rates. So that's a positive. I really see by the, and this is my projection, you never know. We all have a crystal ball, but I feel that by the, as we move in the next couple of months, it'll take some time to adjust, but we're seeing gas prices down. We're seeing, that the job market is slowing down too, which is okay, because that was overheated to, through all different companies or industries that way. That by the first quarter, I think if rates settle in the low 6s to high 5s, and they kind of settle there, I think we're going to see a really strong market starting, about the March, April. I think we're going to go back to a traditional market. I think we've got a lot of people who paused. I think we have a lot of people renting, as we know, rental rates at, the inflation. So we talk about the increase in home prices the last number of years. Yeah. Rental rates have been even crazier. So,
oh my gosh. And it's not changing.
No.
It's not changing. So, it's only going to go up, which is a whole conversation we won't have today about why you should be buying a house right now. Let's talk about the economy. And we were talking a little bit off record here earlier about real companies and transition and where the money's really going and what the earning power really was. And it wasn't. There was a lot of unrealistic spend happening, if you will. And what was going, how does that effectively change what's happening in the housing market in terms of what's happening on a corporate level with the job market?
Yeah, they're obviously tied together.
Yeah, of course they are.
They are. And from that standpoint. So I think as we start to, I think we're blessed, though, I would say, with the Twin Cities job
Super
market.
stable.
Economy is super stable. We've got such a diverse economy and such a diverse industries and businesses here.
Right.
That has always been, for all the time I've been with the company, really been allowed us to be a very stable market that way. You look at a Las Vegas, so you look at something in New York, and they, they really can get themselves in trouble.
I agree.
Just by certain industries that way. And because we've been stable that way, I think we're really, that's a good, we're really, I see that staying and continuing strong.
I agree. I feel like this, they call us flyover country. They have in the past, but that's really changing right now. I find historically we have always been extremely stable. Like we've never really felt the effects, even during our past recessions and other global and national crisis. We've always been very steady as she goes.
Yep.
Steady as she goes here. I do think that it's interesting that we're becoming so interesting to so many people. And I think there is, absolutely a speak that is important for people to understand that the quality of the life here, albeit maybe a little less glittery and a little more quiet, there's so much beauty. The state and the city is so beautiful and so dynamic as a community to work in and to live in. What do you see happening with relocation over the next 5 years, in your opinion, post-COVID?
I think I'd put split that apart. I think corporate moves, in that we would see traditional moves of large companies, corporations. We're seeing a lot less of that, but that's just, people are able to work remote in corporations, or, we see that even within our parent company Home Services. They're leadership positions. Somebody's in California, someone's on the East Coast. They're able to do some of that. But I think on the other hand, relocation, just in general, people moving into the market area, we're going to see continue to see a lot of that. People are able to be, mobility in our country has continued to change. And I think to your earlier point, the arts, the entertainment, and the restaurants, the food.
Oh yeah,
in our Twin Cities. I mean, we're very well known for that.
Yeah, we are.
And that really, for a lot of people that way. On the flip side, people who love the outdoors, we've got everything to offer from the outdoors, both summer and winter.
I know it. Well, here we are.
Right.
We love and came out to 15 acres for that very reason. We love it out here. What do you forecast in terms of growth as a company now that we've gotten through the flash? And we've been around a long time. We'll just put it out there. We've had some big dynamic changes, like the chessboard, right? There's been some power plays, if you will. What's your take on the power play, the competition, and the position as a brokerage as you're retaining that breadth and depth of history?
Without naming names of some of the other companies out there, they had some, venture capital money behind them. And they were doing some things that they just weren't practical. They weren't sensible. And, they are now got themselves in trouble.
Yeah.
And you can't do that, long term. That's short term, and that didn't play out for them.
That's not a good business plan.
It is not. It's a short term, especially if you look at companies that are traded publicly. They're always doing things short term for the stock price for that quarter. The great thing we have with Edina Realty and our parent company Home Services and Berkshire Hathaway is that we're in the long play. If you look at Berkshire Hathaway, they buy companies and hold companies forever.
A long time.
And so we've got that benefit. So we see that really playing out. On the, I'll use another example, the iBuyers that were out there. Zillow was in there.
I'd love to hear your opinion on that.
Zillow was in there. They're shut down. Redfin got into it. They've shut down.
Yeah.
They just announced that. Open Door, which is kind of the only player left, they're losing over $40,000 per home.
Yeah, I know.
That's not a business model. They lost almost $1 billion last quarter.
I think the point there, the story behind that is, if it seems too good to be true, everybody, it likely is.
Right.
You can't do great things in the world by making change quickly and fast. There's got to be some thought put into it.
And that's what we see. I always joke, it's the shiny objects. If you go back and look at Super Bowl ads from 10 years ago and see which of those companies are still in existence, most aren't.
You're right about that. Yeah. Well, I'm all about the classics. Those that know me well know that. I know you got numbers down there. Can you share some of them?
Well, I just had some market share numbers. I would
love to hear them.
We've sold We've already closed over 19,000 homes this year in a slower market.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah. So people think no homes are selling.
There's a lot of homes.
We're still selling just about 100 homes a day.
19,000.
19,000.
19,000 stories.
Right.
People who are making major life changes. 19,000 people is a lot of people, everybody.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And the ranking of that, when you look at how others are performing as brokerages, I mean, I feel like a lot of people are skewed in terms of the rankings because of how those numbers are being thrown out there.
And we talked about that before, right? You can always manipulate numbers to, in that regards of how you want them to look.
Yeah.
We look at the pure numbers, and we do. And that's why we're able to every year come out and be the market leader.
So 19,000 during a year where there was a lot of confusion, I think, on what people wanted to do. I think a lot of people didn't transact this year because of the overwhelm with the multiple offer market the first half. There's a whole lot. Those numbers would be bigger, by the way, in my opinion, had it not been such a challenging transition time for buyers specifically. There's a huge play for buyers in 2023. Yep. And I think those numbers are going to be really much more elevated because of it.
And we see that. We're really projecting, and we do a lot of, financial forecasting and budgeting forecasting for next year already. And we see that the sales number, we feel the sales numbers are going to be up compared to this year. Number one. Number two, which I think is okay. I think we're seeing a flattening to maybe a slight increase in average sales price.
Right.
But that's still, you got to look at the trends. You got to look at historically.
Right.
The average appreciation is what, 5%, 6%. If you go back 30, 40 years.
Yeah, it's true.
From that, so it equals out over time. No different than the stock market. You got some heated times in the stock market and you got some down times, but traditionally you've got that level of appreciation.
You think back 2005, 2006 when we were locking in at 6.5%. We were locking in all day long with no complaints whatsoever. It's I call it the aftershock. Yep. Everyone's just so used to seeing these ridiculously low 2s and 3s. They're dealing with the aftershock of settling into a normal. So I think by the time we get through the holidays, people are going to be like, okay, I'm ready to make my move now. I don't really care about the differential. I just want to get into my right space or start buying those investment opportunities or, buy a commercial building or do a land development opportunity or whatever it might be. Yep. What other numbers do you have there?
No, I think, that's really, where we see that. I'm going to just touch on that, not number-wise per se, but just that we see the amount of equity. Homeowners have the most amount of equity in their homes ever.
I know.
Ever in their homes.
I know.
And they're going to want to tap that, and it's going to help them move on to that next home. I think that's a real opportunity for people moving forward too.
So there was an analytic that came out, Greg, and tell me if I'm wrong, 40% of the homes in the country are fully owned by baby boomers, so full equity. $71 trillion of the global wealth is owned by the baby boomers.
Yep.
And the transition of this entire population, which is a huge number, is happening over the next 24 months. They're in life change. Whether that means they're selling their primary home, keeping the cabin, buying a new home down in Denver or Florida or Texas or whatever it might be, there's a lot of game change happening over the next 2 years with our baby boomers, and they happen to have a whole lot of cash.
Yep. I was going to say, along with the equity in the homes, the savings rate, is the highest it's ever been too.
Ever been. And I think ever will be again.
Yep.
Don't you think?
I think, we'll see, but I think so. There's a lot of wealth out there, and a lot of people sitting on a lot of cash, a lot of ability to do things that way.
I agree.
And I think that's where, I think we're going to see that, we're going to see that in the market going forward. And people you can only put off a decision so long, right? And at some point in time, you're going to pull the trigger and make that move.
Well, as you know, one of the services, because we are a concierge real estate team, and after 23 years of building and doing design, build, all those, I've been so involved with so many aspects of life change. One of our specialties is working with baby boomers. And it's a very overwhelming time in life because people have been in their home for 20 plus years. The accumulation is real. And the overwhelm of dealing with exiting out of that is real. So some of the delay in those life changes that I think we're going to really see come full circle over the next year or two is the reality of, yes, there are support systems out there to help us get through this. So we know what to do in actually exiting out of this home and being able to transition it into the next owner's hands.
And I think it'll be interesting to see. I know the builders, new construction has been challenged by a number of things. Obviously, both land prices, government fees, and obviously construction costs, material costs, and labor. All those things have been factors. So I think that's another thing to really watch. How do we get, because we need that product too. And I think a lot of baby boomers are looking for what product can they move into.
Right. Well, we don't really have the infrastructure in this country, generally speaking, to really serve them as they want to be served. Like that housing inventory is just not there, and they haven't really been building it for them. They haven't been doing any spec work at all. It's all been custom, one-on-one for all the reasons we just talked about. So that'll be an interesting component because we've got a whole lot of housing coming into the ecosystem that's going to need actually quality, beautiful homes that need a little, zhuzhing.
Yep.
And I think there's a way to do that and help increase the availability of homes for our younger people that are coming into the system. I think the average age right now is hovering around 30 now for first-time home buyers, which is elevating their entry point.
Yep.
Which is really interesting.
We've seen that, and I've seen that firsthand. I've got 3 kids.
Yeah.
And, I've got one now, and he's owned a home in Hudson here for a while. He's 35, and my other one's 30 or 32. I'm sorry, and my daughter's in her mid-20s, but their whole generation now, especially when they hit close to 30, they want to be homeowners.
Right.
They're not going to be renters. When you recall when we went through the last housing crash, you'd get all these experts saying everybody's just going to be a renter.
Yeah.
That's not the case. Actually, all the studies are showing people more and more continue to want to be homeowners.
Right.
And it's home ownership is what makes our country a great country.
Well, absolutely. And it's a safe zone. I mean, there is an opportunity to create some wealth with home ownership, and it's yours. You're not just throwing your money down the toilet every month. I mean, there's something that you can, that's valuable and an asset for your future. So super valuable there. I think that since we're talking about kids right now, 3 kids, all adults, work-life balance with the kind of work that you do, which is highly demanding. I mean, we haven't really delved into it, but you're operating all the different divisions of Edina Realty Home Services. You're consulting and advising and building and growing all these divisions. It's a big responsibility. How do you find work-life balance? And what are the things that you love personally that kind of fill your soul?
A couple things. One, I think I've learned, I'm in early every day. I'm working a full day, but when I leave, I try to turn it off, and I try to teach that or preach that to others, that when you leave for the day or whenever your day's done, you got to turn it off. You got to just kind of not think about work. And that's not always easy to do, but you try to do that. The other thing is I love, I have a lake cabin up by Alexandria.
Oh, wow.
And so when I'm up there, that's my, you and I were talking about it earlier. When you're here, you're a great place. It's so beautiful, but that's my blood pressure. My blood pressure goes down. I go from having that suit on to putting jeans on and boots and, cut out there in the woods.
Greg's an outdoorsman, everybody. We were sitting having dinner together at Spoon and Stable for the Executive Circle event, and we've never really had a chance to do that before. We've just never had the opportunity or time. And your real love and passion is very much organic and being outside and kind of reconnecting with your environment and getting away from the city and the office.
Yep. So that's my key. I love to do outdoor activities that way, whether it be hunting, whether it be fishing. Love to downhill ski. And I think that's one of the things. Twin Cities got some fun local ski hills.
So
you don't have
fun,
to get on a plane always, so you can go have fun locally that way.
Absolutely. And I think it's so critical and important, whether it's in our industry, the work that we do, or anybody out there, finding that balance is so, so important. To be able to get into a place where you can reground yourself and find the calm in a world right now that is got so much distraction.
Yep.
So as you plan and are building and having, I'm sure there's all kinds of things happening on a corporate level right now as you're preparing for 2023. What would be the most exciting, oh my gosh, I can't wait to delve into this in 2023. That's an aha for the organization? Like what's coming down the pipeline that you'd be willing to share with everybody?
A couple of things within the organization. We continue to do some great things with technology, and we've always been a technology leader with that. We're launching a new CRM.
Oh,
here
cool.
in the first quarter.
Didn't know that.
Yep. KV.
Oh, my heart.
We're going to be launching KV Core and a number of products related with the KV Core. So we're working very hard on that. And
IT will be so excited.
Absolutely. So, and we're continuing to look at opportunities. One is growth opportunities. We continue to look at companies that have been out there, and maybe they were, doing well, but with this market change, this is the time that we always look to see to grow through acquisition opportunities throughout the region.
Right.
With that, so we acquired in Sioux Falls. We continue to kind of connect the dots. Throughout the region, and I think it's one of the things that I look at as a company as a whole is our diversification. We have office diversification throughout, in the cities, whether it be downtown, whether it be in the lakes area, or all throughout, even some of the farm country out there within the state. We've got great offices, and then we have all our businesses. We've got the mortgage company, we've got the title company, we've got insurance, and which all continue to grow. So we continue to really work on growing all of those and make them stronger and stronger each year.
Very, very exciting. So is there anything else that you can think of in that repertoire of, we have so much that we could talk about today, but I know we have a bit of a time crunch with all things podcasting. Is there anything else you want to share with the audience today that they should know from you or from the company? No,
I think this is a market where we're going to do well. And I think clients, consumers, it's interesting over time. I remember in the early 2000s, when the internet's really starting to boom, right? And you were talking about Henry Brand, our good friend Henry Brandis.
Oh, Henry, gosh. Okay, we just got to talk about Henry for a minute. He's one of our attorneys. He's been how many years? Retired now. Yep. Amazing attorney. Love Henry. Amazing guy. And anyway.
But we would look at that time, and we would talk about the internet coming in and talk about it would disintermediate agents. It would disintermediate, and consumers would go direct. And they would just buy all their homes through the internet. And it's funny, today all the NAR studies are showing more than ever consumers want to work with an agent.
Well, I can't even imagine not wanting that with the complexity of the process now. To know that this organization, really, I don't think people, generally speaking, understand how lucky we are as a company to have the knowledge and the years in business, in, having the legal team that we've got, having the IT group and the marketing component. As an organization, you've got your independent agents, right, running under an umbrella of extraordinary marketing that elevates the client experience beyond your wildest imagination. It's quite complex.
And I think it's why in our ad campaign has really been about the local communities, moving forward within local communities, because that's the other part of it. So many people came in the real estate industry, I can say it, the Zillows of the world or whatever. They had no idea about local real estate.
No,
and it is so local. And you have to know the local market area.
It is so local. And you do have to have that intimate knowledge and that networking power to find the success stories for these people. So they're well matched and well cared for.
And as I walked in this morning, you told me about your house here. That's exactly what you did, right?
Yeah.
You actually talked with the owners.
We did.
And
we were in a multiple offer. We just drove down the driveway one day. We had lost in multiples on another property, been watching this property, and brought Steve out to meet the homeowner, and they walked the land together. And in the midst of all of that, 3 more offers were written. And because of that connection and that, awareness of somebody who cared about the real estate and would truly be a steward and take on the work that this homeowner had spent 30 years of their life building and growing, was super important to them. And those stories are what win the day.
Yep.
And you can't do that in a text or email.
No, you can't. And you can't do it just online either.
No, you cannot.
Nope.
All right. That's a great way to close this out, Greg.
Right.
Truly an honor. It's just been so fun to spend time visiting with you. And I'm so glad you were able to come out today and do this. And I look forward to interviewing you again.
Well, Thank you for having me, and thank you for breakfast.
Absolutely.
All right.
My pleasure.
Thank you, Carter.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great day. How was that? Great. You're awesome.